There is a lot of evidence in the scene that I'm about to show you that this being pretending to be Jim Matthews is not only working with the monsters, but that it could actually be the entity that created them in the first place.
To get the radio.
It's broken.
I thought maybe I could send Thomas a message so you wouldn't be alone. What's wrong?
Everything's okay.
You're not staying, are you?
I wish that I could.
Dad, what's happening?
Now, what we're looking at right now is a very clear sign given to us by the writers of this story that this being pretending to be the ghost of Jim Matthews has been manipulating the people of this town from the very beginning in order to achieve his own obviously evil goals. Like, we've already seen the kimono demon invading Elgin's dreams multiple times in the story. And this is on top of the fact that we literally saw the kimono demon implanting the information about the child sacrifices into Fatima's brain so that the people of the town would know that making a deal to gain immortality is always an option that they have access to. So basically what I'm trying to say is the reason this being knew what Ethan saw in his dream about the Lake of Tears and the spider coming down from the ceiling is because this is the same being that implanted that information into his brain in the first place. And this is just one of the many clues that this being pretending to be Jim Matthews has always been working with the monsters. And we know for a fact that this is obviously 100% the case because we have seen him doing this same exact thing that he's doing to Ethan once before. So pay attention here.
Belong to someone. Someone out here, maybe? It's okay. Not gonna hurt you. Just want a closer look.
What we are seeing here right now is proof that this is not the first time that we have seen this being choosing to appear in a specific form so that he can manipulate the people of this town for his evil agenda. Because just like we saw from the ghost of Jim Matthews, this dog also kept looking behind itself to make sure that no one would be able to come in time to stop him from manipulating Boyd. Like, it is incredibly obvious that this being chooses to deceptively appear as a dog to Boyd is obviously the same being choosing to appear as the ghost of Jim Matthews so that he can use Ethan as a puppet to move him into the right position. Like, when you really think about it, what happened to Boyd when he decided to follow the dog? It lured him out into the forest where he coincidentally just happened to bump into the Nightwalkers, who then used his fear of being attacked by them to herd Boyd into the same stone hut that contained the talismans. And of course, this is just one of the many pieces of evidence that we are being played by the entity in control of the monsters in more ways than we can ever possibly imagine. Because it's very clear at this point that the reason why all of the talismans were placed inside of that stone hut is more than likely because they were meant to keep something trapped inside. And Boyd was the one who was deceived into freeing it and bringing it back to the town. And it's very important to understand that this being appearing as the dog is clearly one and the same with the being who chooses to appear as Jim Matthews. This is important because what I'm about to show you next is undeniable proof that he was always working with the monsters.
I'm not gonna kill you, boy. You don't fucking break me. That's what she said.
You don't fucking break me!
What you're looking at right here is just a very small piece of the incredible amount of evidence that the entity has been manipulating the people of this town for much longer and in much worse ways than we have ever realized. Because this dog is clearly the same being that told the Nightwalkers that Boyd said this place couldn't break him. Like, when you think about this dog, it was right there watching Boyd when he was in the ruins, interacting with the supposed ghost of his dead wife. And when you really think about it, Boyd was able to go into the dungeon without being unconscious, like what happened to Julie, Randall, and Marielle. So what this really means is that it's possible to storywalk while keeping your physical body and without disconnecting your consciousness to astral project, like what we see from Boyd. But that is always an option. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that the dog is the same being as whatever that was pretending to be Boyd's wife, and that he can likely storywalk from anywhere in Fromville, and that he doesn't even need to be in the ruins of the dungeon to be able to do it. Like, to keep it simple, what I'm really trying to say is that he, the entity in control of the monsters, is the one who induces the seizures into Julie's body when she enters the ruins of the dungeon, and is the one deciding to transport her to specific moments in the story so that he can use her to get specific outcomes that he wants to see from particular events that happened in the past. Like, okay, just watch what I'm about to show you.
Dad! But I want to play!
what I really want you noticing here first and foremost is that this monster was clearly waiting for Julie to arrive before she did. This is a massive clue that every destination that Julie is story-walking to has been determined in advance by the same entity in control of the monsters. And this is something we know for a fact because it's obviously not a coincidence that Julie just happened to be there to throw the rope down to Boyd so that he can get infected with the worms and infect Smiley, therefore releasing the cicadas back into the town. Just like it's obviously not a coincidence that Julie just happened to be there when the man in yellow appeared. Basically, the only reason why she was sent there is so Jim Matthews would not run away from the yellow man and would obviously be killed by him as a result, therefore allowing the entity to start appearing as the ghost of Jim Matthews to lure Ethan and Tabitha to the Lake of Tears. So what I'm saying is that every single place Julie is story-walking to was decided by the same being who controls the monsters. This explains why she will never be able to change the story. The entity obviously would never allow it to happen because he's already manipulated events in such a way that only he could be the winner of this game. And we know for a fact that the entity is the one who determines it because he was able to bring the souls of Julie, Randall, and Marielle to the dungeon, even though none of them were anywhere near the ruins when they got infected with the cicadas. We already know without a doubt that the entity is also at least traveling from the future to the past, just like Julie, because he not only somehow knew that Tabitha would tell Julie to take Ethan to the barn, but also that Julie and Ethan specifically would be the first people to go into the barn on that particular day where he had already set up the trap with the dead body of Jim Matthews. There is no other way without him being a storywalker that he could accurately predict that literally none of the dozens of people who were already awake and walking around the town would go to the barn before Julie and Ethan did. Like, basically what I'm saying is that he intentionally placed the bloody bag on the motel sign to make Tabitha think that it was Jim Matthews as part of a plan to make sure that Ethan would see the body in the barn, which is literally the only reason he decided to run away to the RV in the first place, the same place where the entity had already planned to intercept him as the ghost of Jim Matthews so that he can tell him about the Lake of Tears. Like, this dog is literally at least 40 years old. So obviously, it's not a real dog. And I do want to point out that there's only 2 dogs that we have seen in the entire show, and they were barking at each other. So they are clearly representatives of the 2 factions in Fromville, Hope and Fear, which would explain why this dog wanted Boyd to bring the talismans, i.e. Hope itself, back to the town. So this is just telling us what we already knew, that the game has been rigged in so many different ways beyond anything that we can possibly imagine. And this is something that is really emphasized in the scene that I'm about to show you.
I know you out there. All you fucking do is knock on our doors. Well, I'm standing right here. You want to play?
I like this game.
This moment right here has always stood out to me for a number of different reasons. Like, first of all, I want you to notice how, just like the monster who attacked Julie while she was storywalking, Smiley also uses a very similar term by saying, "I like this game." What I take this to mean is that the entity tells the monsters to wait at specific locations because there's someone who wants to play with them, and that's why they keep using that same methodology. So basically, I'm saying that he always wanted Boyd to kill Smiley because it was the only way to release the cicadas. It's pretty obvious because he was the same being that appeared as the ballerina to show him how to do it. And I do also want to point out that he also clearly has the ability to decrease or increase the complexity of the Nightwalker's ability to process information and think. Because what we see here is a drastic difference to what we saw with the cowboy when he was talking to Boyd in the barn. And just like we saw with what happened to Julie and I believe it's the nurse monster, Smiley was already there waiting for Victor's mom at the bottle tree. So it was clearly just a setup. But you also have to remember that it was Christopher and not Victor's mom that was supposed to be at that location. And to me, when I look at the ghost of Jim Matthews intentionally manipulating Ethan to go to the Lake of Tears, and how Tabitha herself will probably also be deceived that she has to get to the Lake of Tears to save the sacrificed children, I think they're setting up a storyline where Tabitha will be told that she has to willingly sacrifice Ethan to complete the quest. But it's also possible that it could be the inverse, that Ethan will be told that he has to sacrifice his own mother to neutralize the original sacrifice. Either way, it doesn't even matter because both of them are just deceptions to allow the entity to escape his prison in the Lake of Tears. Like, if you see the boy in white or Victor's dad or Victor himself saying at any point in the future that, oh, no, the children were never locked in the tower, they were actually always trapped in the Lake of Tears, then you will know with 100% certainty that everything we have been told has been a lie. Because Victor's dad himself specifically claimed that Victor's mom said the children were locked in the tower. And Victor also says that his sister told him that his mother went to save the children locked in the tower. So if somehow the story changes at any point, it automatically means that at the bare minimum, the boy in white has been intentionally manipulating Victor's memories, which would be completely in line with what we see from this being who chooses to appear as Jim Matthews, that is obviously also the boy in white, which is something I talked about extensively before. So go watch this video right here to see more of my reasoning on why this is definitely not the ghost of Jim Matthews and is clearly just the boy in white himself.